Peace. You now tuning in live to Heru Radio. I'm your host, Aseer the Duke of Tears, along with my co-host, Selena the Empress of 10,000 Years. The song you just heard is called Brooklyn to Miami, off the soundtrack mixtape album CD, on available right now on the Team Cordova, on iTunes and TuneCore. Hope all is well. Love and light, again, to all the human families of the planet Earth. We definitely want to give respect to the ancestors that have constantly been coming in the form of the asteroids that have been falling down on the planet for the past, actually since the last full moon. They've been coming in like 12 a night, but you're not really hearing about that. Also, we want to send our condolences to what seemed like a real nigga, even though he was, perceived, I guess, as Caucasian. This dude, Paul Walker, who bless the dead and bless his family for all of the movies that he had made. He made a couple of ones that I liked in particular. This joint called Running Scared, and this other joint, the Fast and Furious joints was cool. But he also did another joint. One of his first joints that I remember him in again, which brings us to the whole thing, was the Skulls. He was the kid in the Skulls movie that sacrificed the black kid who got killed in the temple accidentally. You know what I'm saying? And he was really torn up, but then his character wound up basically. Yeah, you got to see the movie, but essentially that was interesting. Another interesting thing about the gentleman was that he was born a Mormon. People don't know that. Also, he's a Virgo born on the 12th, which is very interesting. We know that Virgo is an earth sign and one who represents knowledge and wisdom, which is interesting because he leaves behind one daughter. So, as we know, we live in a world where people are going to start to make all types of videos and exposés and YouTube clips about how, this dude was, sacrificed and all of that, which, let's keep it real. We know what's going on. We know the world we really live in. So it's not really a surprise. Of all the people, like, why somebody like that? Like, I know a lot of white people, a lot of black people right now, a lot of Asian people right now, you just get rid of if you want. Why somebody like him? Why somebody who, one of his last movies is a movie about Katrina, you know what I'm saying? And about the lack of response even for white people during that whole thing who was living in the Fifth Wars, who was poor. Because, in order to be in white society, you got to be making at least $5 million or better. You know what I'm saying? That's not, if you got anything under that, according to McCain, I believe he said 5 mil. He either said 5 mil or like 50 mil. But he said anything lower than that, you're not really, you know what I'm saying, you kind of poor. So this nigga made his movies, all made money. People try to diss him. This is how ill it is too. He's a Mormon. His mom's put him in the game. And then, once being in the game, he was able to do his thing. One of the biggest movies he came out with, he was in Varsity Blues, you know what I'm saying? He was in Running Scared, you know what I mean? The Skulls in particular. And that always, whenever niggas be doing them Masonic movies like that, you know what I'm saying? Those be signs to me, you know what I'm saying? Because only white male actors in the game get to have diversity in character. Meaning that they're the only ones that can be like, they could be whatever they want. They could be a fish, they could be a woman, they could be a black man. Like, they'll do whatever. But if you're a white woman, anybody that's not a black male, you know what I'm saying, you got to be the stereotype of what that is. Whereas the white guy can do whatever. But what was cool about this nigga, it seemed like he was really into doing movies with real niggas, you know what I'm saying, or what appears to be real niggas. Because remember, these people are not really real. I mean, they're real, but they're not really real in the direct sense that you relate to them as real people. You know more about these niggas than you really know about your own family, and some of us know about our own selves. But that's because we live in an externalized macrocosmic society that makes you believe that the externalization of yourself is the real you. So you think you know niggas by what movies they make. You know what I'm saying? Now who these people are. What we know these people are, to be are holographic projections. They're not even really like real people, because when people see them in real life, they don't see the person in front of them. They see the person in the movie. So you don't know who this person is. You don't know. You don't know. You know what I'm saying? But when you have certain people who try to anchor themselves and keep more like a private life, stuff like that, you start to see, okay, there's actually seemingly some human people involved in that place. But again, when you put your head in the lion's mouth for too many times, you know what I'm saying? Eventually, you might have an off day. And unfortunately, situations like this transpire where the realities of what goes into making these movies. The ill shit, I was just watching this whole documentary about how the ASPCA file at least 20 lawsuits a year against Hollywood for the mistreatment of animals. Like they said, they almost killed that. When you see that movie Life of Pi with that tiger on the boat, they said they almost killed that tiger like 3 times in the process of making that movie, because he was so disoriented in being in a tank, and then the tank had all of this just lightings and all of this and all this other shit. Where really, again, he's an animal that's in the jungle. Tigers ain't supposed to be in the ocean. You know what I'm saying? So they got this dude out for 22 days. This tiger out. Yeah, for real. Nah, some of the scenes was computer generated, but that nigga was in a tank on that little ass boat with all of these people around him acting like he was in the high ocean. They said that mad time. They said one time he fainted. Look it up. This nigga fainted. How you make a tiger faint? How the white man is so crazy? He make a tiger faint. Like, damn, I can't even. You know what I mean? So this is the reality that this guy has created. So I was just watching that, like, damn, they killing all these tigers, making people believe that they all CGI. Like, yeah, come on, man. Not all of these animals are CGI, nigga. Like, not the one licking the character in the face. That's, come on, man. That's the real tiger, man. But regardless, the appetite for destruction in that arena is one that is one of consumption. You know what I'm saying? So think about how many cars Hollywood kills a year. How many pristine, dope cars that just blow up in 1 year. Think about that. Who's getting the insurance derivative of that? Where's all of that going? Where are all these cars coming from? You know what I'm saying? When the car that now you can only drive that shit for a certain amount of miles before you got to trade it in and get something else, because they purposely manufacturing shit to last for a little less than 7 years. That's a mandate. They started a manufacturing concept of that after the 1970s. That's why they started outsourcing everything by the 80s. But specifically in speaking with the gentleman who may or may not have lost his life to accident, happenstance, or instead of looking at him, usually in situations like this, I'd be like, yo, where was he at? What was he doing? This time I was like, you know what? Let me check the car. What was up with the car? Let me go a whole nother route. And then when you check that was kind of crazy, because the car had 6 owners before him. And the last owners to get it, flipped it, the name of the company is called Evolving Always. Right? Most of the numbers on the car seem to bust down to 6. Right? The dude driving the car name was Roger Rodas. Roger Rodas, who was allegedly this, the man's partner. But the double R, you know what I'm saying? For it to go down on the 1st, as we're going into December, it had 6 owners before that. The license was 7CCY590. So that would be God, CC, Y equals self, power refinement, born cipher. So we bust that down numerically. That would be 7 plus 3, 10, what was that, 13? 13 and 25, what is that, 35 months? 35, 35 and 5. 40, that's what, Culture Cipher, so that's Way of Life. And they were doing the 7th movie. So 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, that's 11. And then we add that to the 9, you know what I mean? That's knowledge born. So the 9 is very prevalent, being that the car has 6 owners, which is a reverse 9, you know what I'm saying? And your man Roger Rodas, his name, R, is the 18th letter, right? So that's 1818, that's 9 and 9, right? So there's a bunch of 9s in this thing. You know what I'm saying? Then they said that the kit that was on it was known to be dangerous. That car specifically is highly unstable. Like some of these high-class cars you be seeing, like Bugattis or certain things, some of these cars are really dope, but they're not totally tested for the roller shit. So some of them just burst into flame. Like the one that, I forget the type that he gave Bieber, let Sean Kingston and them drive or whatever, little flipping drive. That car is known to be combustible. Like people have blown up in that shit. But you look dope, you know. So I was doing an answer to all of that. Then I was like, oh, well, being that the asteroids and all that is coming in and we're manifesting aspects of an isonomy or striving to reaffirm that, you know, this is their 7th movie of this installment. You know what I mean? Him being the hero. You know what I'm saying? I'm seeing in the decline. So I'm like, well, are they trying to do like a rising, falling star type ritual? So then when I checked where Ison was, Ison, which again is short for isonomy, was in the perihelion 2 days before he died. So that means that the stage was set for the rising action in terms of if we were looking at this in an overview as a observer, which is what we all essentially are. At precisely 3:33 is when the crash happened, right? At the time where Ison's path was slingshotting around the sun. You see what I'm saying? So in that, the comet, which is slingshotted now, the name of the comet or where it's going is into the Hercules constellation, which again, I'm telling you about the hero. This is the rising and fall, the rising and falling action of the hero in the rise and the decline, at the height being that he was 40. You see what I'm saying? Born in the year of the ox, which is Earth in Virgo. So ritualistically, that's ill because Hercules slayed the 3 hydras, right, representative of serpentine or kundalini type of energy or action. And then it's also right next to Ophiuchus, which represents the feathered serpent, right? And then right next door, literally to that, is then Draco. And this is where the energy of this is moving. You see what I'm saying? So as we are all pawns in the cosmic drama of the zodiac, some of us, due to certain affiliations and how we come into it, are accented to create rising actions, right, to be able to garner a certain spiritual outcome, especially at a time when most people are not even really, like, buying the whole Hollywood myth, you know, mystique thing, because it's all distractions from real life. You see what I'm saying? Like, this man was an actual person who by deed actually had charities, real things that he was actually doing. You know what I'm saying? You know, like when they say, oh, well, give to this foundation, you see a star on TV. No, this nigga was actually out there giving niggas money. You know what I mean? I've seen situations where he was giving niggas money. And again, this is a Mormon. So whether it be ritual, whether it be whatever, the point of the matter is we live in a society now where you can't ignore aspects of it, meaning that we live in such a tyrannical society that anything is possible, meaning anything can happen in one event, meaning people can look at an event, they can look at something and still not know if what they saw was real. This is unparalleled in any time in what people will perceive as human history. This has never been historically thing. People usually believe the things that they saw, or there was a time when you could do that. You can't do that now because you don't know if what you're seeing is what you're seeing or what you're supposed to see based upon the emotional response that needs to be reacted from that. So again, when Isom was passing through the perihelion 2 days before that, a perihelion, for those people who don't know, in astronomical numeration, is the point of orbit where a planet or asteroid or some sort of planetoid body, comet, where it's nearest to the sun. You see what I'm saying? The opposite then is the aphelion. You see what I'm saying? Which is when the orbit is kind of going away from the direction. But this energy is going to the sun through Hercules. At the same time, at 3:33, when this thing went down, is when exactly this event occurred, where the hero is now thrust out of existence. On the 7th, meaning that he's doing the 7th move. You dig? So now the first thing they asking, well, what do we do with the movie? This is where the people, this is where, again, because these people are not real to these people that's even with them. That's why when they see people like Tyrese and these people giving real emotion, people is like moved. They're like, wow, this dude is actually a real person. Because, again, you forgot. You see people that's pregnant. You see women that's women. You don't even know if that's a woman no more. You don't even know if that's a real baby. You don't even know if it's a clone or whatever. And if you daft enough not to entertain the possibility that not everybody you see around you is a human, then you even more in the trick bag. You even more disassociated from what's really going on. And what's really going on is the disassociation of the human psyche from anything that's reminiscent to anything of substance. So literally, events and astronomical occurrences happen that these people, these parasites, seek to enamor themselves and bond themselves to for whatever reason, knowing that none of it is actually going to lead to their demise. It's going to lead to their ascendancy. It's only going to lead further to their demise, but due to the veil of illusion, the demon called glamour, everybody runs where they feel they should go. So like I said, this thing got nines all in it. Stop jumping. Get in the bed. Keep under the cover. So it's become an almost reminder that not everything is set. You know what I mean? Like I said, this dude, he got a next movie about to come out. Now, the interesting thing, again, when I watch media, when they depict these things, is how they always bring up other people who went out in the same type of circumstance, which also lets me know that you lumping these dude into whatever ritual or whatever thing you got going on due to the fact this is what y'all been doing. So, again, this is December 1st. This is coming in on the 1. You understand? The number 1 character in the movie. You dig? So, again, what this shows me is that symbolically now this is an assault then on the hero. Now, the interesting is that after this thing went down, after Isom did the perihelion and then skirted around the sun, right, it's going into Hercules. The Rock, who was one of the people that they spoke to about the shit, is playing Hercules right now in the movie that they filming on. And I noticed everybody kept using the word light. He was such a great light. He was such a bright light. His light shined for us all. Like, you know, that's like when Ozzie Davidson was talking about how Malcolm X was they shining black manhood. He was their manhood. You know, he represented the sterling aspect of black manhood. So then when you hear the story, when you look up manhood and you understand that manhood is another name for the phallus, right, the penis, and then you hear the stories about how these same skull and bones people, right, the skulls are the ones who allegedly cut off the penis of this man, as well as got the the skull of Harriet Tubman and Geronimo and all these niggas in the tomb. You know what I'm saying? And then we also know then that the whole Scottish Rite thing was reorganized under Albert, who was himself a lieutenant in the Confederate Army of John Drew, who was Noble Drew Ali's father. This gives us a whole, again, through-line perspective of the fact that we're still dealing with the same stuff. He was a walker. When you look up the walkers in the Mormon theology, these are one of the people who was right next to, what's his name, Brigham Young. This is the Walker family was the ones that was helping them put forth the shit and hold off the United States. Because, again, they were following the god Moorally, which is a code for Moors on high. You dig? But, again, that whole thing was taken over by theosophy and turned into the whole satanic thing. But the initial doctrine that they was dealing with was coming about the Moors and the bloodline of Christ being over here, because they was following the Aquarian gospel, what came to be known as the Circle 7 Quran. Eliphas Levi had access to a printing press a year before, you know what I mean, and was able to get the plagiarized copy, you know what I'm saying, and put it out. So that way when the prophet come out with it now, we all think, oh, well, he got the copyright first, so the white man put it out first, so he owned it, right? Right. And who the first ones to advocate and co-sign all of that? Black people. Because niggas don't want you to be right. Most don't want to. A lot of these niggas don't want to be right. And when we have to allow things to happen the way they're supposed to. Like, I don't feel like this man was supposed to have died, and he didn't mean nothing to me other than the fact that I knew this person through an extended aspect of a fictitious reality, but yet still he seemed like a cool dude. You know what I'm saying? So of all the niggas to take out, why him? Why not take Cheney? Why not take Reagan? Why not take this nigga? Why not take any of these bastards? Even in our community, there's a lot of people who we'd be better off with, in my opinion. You see what I'm saying? But people would say the same thing about us. And this is what I mean. Everybody's opinion is subjective to where they at. So, again, I know what the past is for what I perceive our people's past to be, because this is what I've dedicated my life, it seems like, and it's not even something I set out to. Oh, when I was 3, I read, I saw Roots, and I just knew I was going to be the one to bring about, black nationality. No, none of that. All I ever wanted to do was rap, man. As far back as I remember, rap and do art. That's it. All this other stuff wound up manifesting based upon the fact that this is where the Creator urged me to go. Therefore, I'm not going to go against what I feel the Creator is urging me to do. You see what I'm saying? Because that would be stupid on my behalf. Because I'm actually one who believes in spirit, soul, a creator, a creatrix, a mother, father, father, mother, God, whatever you want to call it. And I also subscribe to the fact, because I started in terms of my true knowledge of self through the nation gods of earth, that the original man is Allah, arm, leg, arm, head. You see what I'm saying? And the more of us that realize that, you see what I'm saying, the more we can get past all of the nuances of that. It's a foregone conclusion to everybody else. The only people who keep guessing about it is us. The only people who rather have the barbarous culture is us. Well, not us, but those of us that ascribe to barbarous cultures. You know what I'm saying? Things are more simple than we make them. We just get crazy because we want to bring about different outcomes. So because nobody want to acknowledge the prophet, everybody want to be the prophet. So what you got to do in situations like that is let them do that. People are going in on somebody that's been dead for 100 years. You understand? Most of the debates that we having about is based on ghosts, things that don't even exist no more. How can you manifest that today? Yeah, I can read the 101s. Yeah, I can read the Lost Foundation 1 to 10. Yeah, I can read the Mapian. I can read all of that. But what is that going to do to bring about a spiritual? He can be in the dark. He needs to go to sleep. I know, so he can go to sleep. If he wants to listen to me, he can do that, but he needs to go to sleep. I'll go tell him.
All right.
All right. So it becomes a situation where we, again, are confronted with what it is we perceive our reality to be. Are you going to let the first person who makes a YouTube clip about what it is you have basically based your life on to shake the faith of what you have already agreed is true to you? Because this person got over 1 million views or more than 2,400 hits? Is that the life you in? Are you going to follow this person because they can use somebody else's information on their joint and put their face on it and co-sign that? And then when people bring that to the attention of other people, become people? Probably. But again, it's not always for you to be emotionally affected. It's just for most of us who feel emotionally affected to pull back out of the emotion and deal with the situation dispassionately. See, niggas don't like it when you don't have no affiliation or no real emotional involvement for what they have been so committed to get you involved in. You understand? It's a lot of energy to get you involved and get you riled up into thinking that what they are saying is the actual truth that you have to do now. But when you ask, well, what is that truth and what is the now to do, well, you know, it gets more and more vague. But see, you can't get beyond the basic tenets of the stuff. That's why the Prophet kept it so simple. The main movements, again, that came after 1929, you have to understand there was a reorganization of who was what and what was who. But we don't know because these black people don't want you to believe nothing that the white man say, and they right. You know what I'm saying? But that don't mean you should believe half the shit the black man saying neither. Because that nigga, half the script he talking is coming from somebody else's mouth. And he's okay with it to keep things the way they are. They just did a study and they said the number one racial group that's out there trying to be with other people is black males. Why? They always been promoting black women with white men, but it wasn't always the way it is now. With the scandal shit, now this is the norm. You have to understand they've been socially engineering you since 2000. They've been genetically, socially, geodetically moving you towards a certain engendered behavior to co-sign everything that is not you by using the very thing that you use to exert yourself on the world as the gateway to, because that was created for you to do that, to get away from the national birthright, inheritance, true and living God that you are truly associated with. To debate a foregone conclusion is insanity. To continue to do a specific action with no specific result, but want the result to be specific, is insane. I spoke to the Moor the other day. Moor was like, Moor, I went to the temple. I did the thing, was there and all of that. I didn't have my fez, so they let me wear one when I was there. And then when I was leaving, they asked for it back. You understand what I'm saying? Like, certain people want you to be a Moor on, like, Fridays and Sundays. And then every other day of the week, you know, you Tyrone Randolph working at Wendy's. You know what I'm saying? They want you to look at this thing like it's a Christian thing, and it's not. And unfortunately, a lot of Moors who grew up under the crooked regimes were fed things that they believe are true today, and they're not. And it's not my fault, and it's not your fault, and it's not the prophet's fault. It's the fault of the people who decided that they was going to redo the stuff that the man did. When I go and I research stuff, whether it be through Freedom of Information Act or just looking on the net, like what I'm starting to see is that there's actually more truthful stuff on the net than there is on regular in regular life, because they clamp it down the books as well as, what's in actual hard literature, when you go to some of these study rooms. But as chairman, I'm a foreign researcher. So when I go into these places, phased out or whatever, and, I speak kindly, I get a favorable reply. And they show me stuff that they don't get to other people sometimes. Because they see I'm not trying to be like them. And at the same time, I'm not trying to shut down their hustle. I could never be a sovereign citizen based on how these dudes do stuff, because Moors have never been citizens of the United States. You can't be a citizen of the business that you create. You can only be the CEO or an employee or an officer. That's it. Moors is going up, climbing up orange trees looking for apples. You know what I'm saying? Bugging. As my elder said, they somewhere out in Asia. Okay, my dope. You know what I'm saying? So like I said, at the height of the perihelion, this thing goes down where this brother winds up, well, not this brother, but this man winds up hitting this tree or whatever it was hit, and the car goes up right away. But like I said, this car has 6 owners, and it had a history of having issues. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of whack when you look at the whole outline, how it kind of played out. Yeah, here we go. The car was originally purchased from the Beverly Hills Porsche in California in March in Aries. That's under Aries. In 2005, that's 7, right? So that's Aries 7. When the second owner in California bought the car in 2007, that's 9. It's the first 9 in the whole thing. It had only 456 miles. So that's 9. That's 4 and 5 is 9, and then that's 9 and 6. Right? See what I'm saying? All these 9. It was sold to an owner, number 3 in Texas, the Republic now, in January of 2009. That's 2009, 9, 10, 11. So that's 2. That's Wisdom. And it was there for, the mileage at that time was 1,510. So again, that's 6, which is a 9, right? And 1, which is the first, right? The car from Texas now went to Florida, then Indiana, then back to Florida, then Always Evolving, which is Mr. Rodas, Roger Rodas' car and race tuner store, apparently acquired the car last spring. Right before the accident, they was trying this car and the shit ain't go. Said it wouldn't start. It was already having problems. Now, for him to be the star of one of the biggest driving movies, franchises, like I said, in the world, and for him to go in a car crash, what y'all going to do in the movie? How y'all going to take him out in the movie? Which he's going to die in a car crash? Like, he still got scenes to fill. What are they going to do? That's why a lot of times I don't be feeling like it's be the straight studio. You know what I'm saying? Because they got money invested in this shit. And in the end, that's what it's about. That's what I be thinking, that it's the connection between what they call Iron Mountain. This is where the Iron Mountain operatives and these type of people come in. Mountain, or Lookout Mountain, is where they film a lot of these disaster types or whatever that the military uses in exercises, where they use Hollywood actors in these people, but they can't talk about the movies they do up there. This, to me, that wing of the whole Hollywood thing is like the military-industrial complex Hollywood, because this is where all these stories be coming from. The guy who made the movie, who made the video game, what's the name of that video game? Mass Effect. In that video game was brought by them. Both of those two dudes was Russian scientists. And they worked in this project over there where they were compiling a list of alien races and stuff in these books. And this book wound up getting out. And the races, these two dudes, after the project went through funk and all of that, these two dudes, these rocket scientists, whatever, bounced and started a video game company and created the whole Mass Effect thing. Look it up. So where they getting all this stuff? Where they getting all this high-tech technology that they see you doing? You just think that shit that they just be building. No, that be real stuff, a lot of that stuff. Like them robots and that shit is real. They build those real things. So if they can build them just to stand there, you think they can't build them to move? You think that they can't make them do shit? Also, there's such a thing as a homunculus. A homunculus is something that is a husk, something that is inanimate, that you create to imbue an angel or a demon in, to bring about some sort of work in the earth or on the earth. So one of the most famous homunculuses was the Golem of Prague. When the Nazis were about to bomb, oh, that's horrible. They always bitch him out. Oh, I got it. They one of the stories of the Golem of Prague was that when they said the reason why Germany didn't bomb Prague during the first campaigns was due to the fact that all of the high elders under the bishop. Now, the title of bishop in the old churches was Moor. The Moor. In the early Episcopal see churches under the real Vatican, under Fleesing, out of Bavaria and all of that, before it got translated and transliterated to those pagans in what we now call Italy or Rome, who fell under the Catholic jurisdiction that we get the term, Catholic from. Those guys adopted the system that brought about what I was about to tell you with this Prague thing. So the bishop got together, the Moor of Prague got together with the elders of the city, and they went and they got earth and mortar and stuff like that from the earth itself of Prague. And they aligned it and filled it up with all the wishes and intentions and all of the lore that they wanted to be in terms of protection against any bombing incursion by any of the Germans, the Nazi Germans. And so they put this thing at the foot of the city. So that way when they came up for whatever bombing campaign or whatever infantry incursion they were going to do, they would have to come in front of the thing. And be that as it may, Prague was never invaded. Or Prague, was never bombed out the way a lot of the old cities of Europe were. And a lot of those old cities in Europe still had deep Moorish architecture and stuff that, we'll never see. And that whole generation of people was slaughtered to even remember how to build again. So again, we're looking at a United States Reconstructionist version of Europe post-1945, due to the fact that the Rothschilds and all of them, that was the New Deal sanctified for them to be able to rebuild Europe. And in that pursuit, all of Europe would have to then do what the United States essentially would say, except for Russia. And that's what initiated the Cold War. Patton, again, was serious. He was about going, not just stopping at Berlin, but marching all the way to St. Petersburg and shut the Russians down right there. But Patton, again, who was serious about it, that wasn't in the best interest of the military-industrial complex that Eisenhower had warned everybody about right before he left. Another so-called black man. That's why I call Ike. The slogan was, "We like Ike." You know what I mean? So the idea, again, of putting demonic entities inside of things to procure certain demonic events that may or may not be planned or unplanned. The same way, if anybody remembers the movie Christine with Stephen King, right, where he talked about the car, or like Herbie, where the spirit in joining the car, or like Kit, things like that. That whole idea of having a transport that actually has a certain degree of cognizance to itself. But this, whatever was implanted or not implanted in this car, just based on the history that I read, just shows you that it has abandonment issues. Like we were looking at it as an actual individual. You know what I'm saying? It was been transferred from mad different people. So it's got abandonment issues, slavery issues, right? Internal issues. And then finally, the fact that it was, this dude's company was called Always Evolving, you know? So the fact that it was a 2005 car, 2 and 5 and 7, and, you know, they're doing a 7th movie, and 7 represents the hero, and, you know, him being the cast member, to me, it seems like a backhanded attempt to assuage to us that it's you know, people who they perceive or who they want to perceive as heroes. You know what I mean? Like how when they started going after the heroes at the end of the 1960s, these type of people. They then did that in the so-called conscious community. But what I people was people who were providing certain things, but for whatever reason had to revolve around certain energies that never seemed to coalesce together, but always create fringe type of consciousness. So again, this is all, as we say, you know, one man's somewhat ignorant assessment of the thing, because again, I was not there and all of that. I'm just looking at the symbolic nature, again, of the timing of these things and why somebody such as himself might or might not be targeted by elements not even within the studio, like I said, but elements that work around and through and under the studio that bring about certain demonic things that all of these guys tend to do that. And then for them to start making lists of people, they all the first one they said Heath Ledger and Brittany Murphy and Heath Ledger and this one and James Dean, and I was like, we had a guy from Glee. Like this nigga wasn't even in a car. Like what is the bind that you're mentioning all these guys together? If they weren't all in cars, you're not mentioning people that were just in cars. You mentioned just niggas that just died recently. Young Hollywood people dying, like the Glee dude. They don't even mention the black dude though, the Jet Jackson dude. People don't even talk about him. So this is what I'm saying. It's this whole underlying thing that you know, yet another distraction. You know what I mean? For people to focus on while they realize that none of this stuff that this guy is talking about doing, like this nigga might actually really go out being the president that lost because he didn't have a good website. Like it's down to that. You know, no matter how many people he bodied, no matter how many wars he allegedly stopped while he was starting them, in the end, you couldn't get your website up, homie, so you whack. You know what I'm saying? Nobody could trust you. That's the new thing with them. They're going in on him. Nobody could trust him. Like, who's trusting him in the first place? I didn't trust this thing about Americans. Like, how you going to trust somebody you just met once? Or better yet, how you going to trust somebody who is part of a regime, you know what I'm saying, dedicated to screwing humanity out of its money? That's why when you see somebody like Tyrese with emotion and giving it like that, again, take an original man to do it. Everybody bugging out. Like, yo, it's real. Yeah, they were friends, obviously. But what I'm seeing is that there's a deeper thing going on in that whole spectrum that has really nothing to do with us. This is all, I believe, warnings for them, because there's also a big contract negotiation thing about to come up in Hollywood with these actors trying to get more money out of their basic deals. So just like there's a ritual of killing senators and congressmen, the freshman killings of Congress, go. I was going to take a couple of calls. You know, it's become a conspicuous thing. But in reading a lot of these old reports, these FBI reports and stuff like that, it's like you almost have to teach yourself how to read certain things. Because if you don't, you'll miss sometimes what's not being said is more powerful than what is, if that makes sense. Like I was reading this report. This was I believe this was under the Hoover administration. But this was about the temple. And this is a guy named Special Agent so-and-so of the Philadelphia offices interviewed this guy Bay, who was there under the pretext of, but it's blacked out so you can't read that. And it says, impeding PA. PA is Pennsylvania. Yeah. The subject informed that his correct name is blah, 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 Bay, and that he is a lowercase c citizen of the United States. So that means this person who's calling himself a Moor, who's talking to this agent, has declared to the agent that he himself is property of the United States by claiming citizenship of the United States, which means that he is a foreign agent, right? Foreign agent who is informing on the Moorish Science Temple of America. And he says that he stated that the Moorish Science Temple, not shrine, meaning that the Shriners, again, if we're reading it correctly, meaning that the Shriners were an aspect of Moorish science, or was somebody who was supposed to be incorporated under that, which is why the prophet probably said, I, your prophet, am here, brother, so you could take that fez off with the sword on it. And he took the shrine and feathers off and gave them plain red feathers. Meaning that the Moorish Science Temple was there to kill all that noise. The Moorish Science Temple was there to dead all of that extra high potentary and sovereign grandis and exalted all of this extra stuff, all of these titles that don't mean nothing outside of that place. But I digress. It says the temple of location was organized during in 1913 at Newark, New Jersey, by one noble Jew Ali. That Ali was the head of the American organization from 1913 until his death in 1929. They claim that he has been the head of the Moorish Science Temple of America since 1929. So this guy, who is saying that he is a citizen of the United States, is saying that he basically is an informant. He's already says that this guy's an informant. This guy is also saying that he is the head of the Moorish Science Temple in 1929. But he says that the Prophet ran it until his death in 1929. Right? So it says that he is the head of the temple in 1929. Right? And that his official title is Supreme Grand Governor Advisor. Interesting. That the organization has temples in 17 different cities throughout the United States, including Cleveland, Ohio, Wisconsin, Richmond, Norfolk, Virginia, Chicago. But it says that the temples were shut down prior to 1930. Various temples held regular meetings for registration and organization purposes. However, since 1930, no meetings have been held, and it is the present policy of the organization to hold no meetings, and their work is supposed to be carried on individually for information concerning the organization or passed among members by word of mouth. So that means that this guy who's saying that he's running all of these temples that were opened in all of these places except New York and Philly, is saying that he also is a citizen of the United States, but he's saying that he's not. But he's talking about a different entity. He has to be a part of a different entity. He can't be a part of that was already there because he's saying that he was not that. He did. So in that, it says that our work was supposed to be carried on individually. This was decree of 1928. A year before the Prophet ascended. So here's another interesting part. He stated that at the time, the regular organization meetings were discontinued in 1930. The Moorally Temple of America at that time had 32,000 enrolled members. He apparently has no record of these members, but assumes that the membership is at the present the same, since no new members are being taken in. So that means those 32,000 Moors who in 1928 peeped game, heeded the Prophet's word, and bounced, they was reassembled under this character. There was a whole nother thing going on. Because this guy, how are you the head of this organization in all of these places, but you have no knowledge of the 32,000 members that was in the organization prior to you coming into it? He's not talking about Emily Ill. So he's got to be talking about somebody else. If we really getting into it, so the bullshit in the temple started after the Prophet was gone, like in all movements. I already read the excerpt from the thing that talked about the 12 adepts, so we already know about all of that. So again, Super Heru Radio is not trying to point fingers at nobody's founder of their organization or whatever. I'm just talking about what the records say. And one thing about the white man, he keeps great records. Because you go to his shit to find the records that you need to validate your shit. Because in essence, it's all our shit. But in the end, he's holding it because most of us are absent of ourselves and have been for over 7 years. So technically, none of our children, if possible, if we could help it, should be in any school in any of their schools between 1 and 7. Between 1 and 7, we should have our own spot. Well, we at least you don't want to trust it for the whole score, but at least till then, at least get the child to acknowledge their own personality first. Get to know your baby. I'm telling you, before you go back to work, man, regardless to who or what, man, the baby ain't gonna starve. You dig? Sometimes you gotta give up to get shit, but you will be so caught up in the fact that we're consistently getting something from this source thinking it's consistent. What is consistent? What is really consistent in your life other than the bills and stuff you got to pay? But these people want to fight you to get your money to pay them and all this other type of stuff. That's not how the country's supposed to work. That's how the United States works. That's why you don't hear me or the Queen say anything negative about America, because America is beautiful. I know the difference. So I'm not going to act like, I'm not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. This land is our land, right? That's the song, right? Real talk. I ain't from, you can't send me to Africa. You can't send me to France. The most you could probably send me to is like Spain or like Morocco. I mean, I could go anywhere, you know what I'm saying? But if we was really on some real shit, like, me and the Queen have driven across this country. The whole country. You understand? Like, real talk. Stopped in many places as we could. And in that, what I seen in all of them was that niggas was like almost surprised that niggas made it out that far. Even the niggas, even the black people's like, wow, you from where? From Brooklyn? Yeah, you will find a person from Brooklyn anywhere. Real Brooklyn, how Brooklyn was, not this stuff now. Not this illicit aspect, this Manhattan Brooklyn that they created after 9/11. Not all of that. The real aspect of it, and people who was there know what I'm talking about. But a lot of our peers coming out of that time, real talk, a lot of these niggas was down with the gentrification, striving to do certain things and get certain things popping. But then when we trying to come and get it popping, it's like, nah, you got to get this dude in because he's from this magazine. It's like, yeah, but I know you. You just told me to send you the pictures. Like, yeah, but you know, oh, so when you told me you was running shit, you wasn't really running shit. The Jewish chick I saw you with was running shit. Okay. And then when you keep it that real with niggas, then they don't want to, when they see you at parties and shit, they feel away. Like, nah, man. Like, I don't know. It's like sometimes people associate being short with, like, being stupid or something. Or like, not being able to, like, defend yourself or something. Or like, you shouldn't say certain shit. It's like, we're supposed to be men. We're supposed to be able to say how we feel and not necessarily blow so long as we're respectful to one another. But if the gauge of respect today, you want me to respect you as a hardcore brother, but then, you know, we got the, you know, tomorrow, you know, you hugged up with the tranny, like, I can't really do nothing with that. There's nothing to even do with nationality now. We just talking about being real as people. Because before all of this conscious shit, we were still people who knew something was wrong, but we were still where we was at. So when you hear when certain people see you and you say Islam or something like that, they think you on some. They try to construe it like you like a Muslim or you like you bugging. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you live in somebody else's culture. Like I'm trying to be like an Arab or like a Turk or like a Mason or something. This is how crazy these niggas is. Oh, the white man during this time when he was fighting, you know, the Mahdi was like this. And he made all these niggas wear feathers. This nigga, what's his name? Leopold made these Moors wear feathers, and they was brutalizing these black people. Yeah. Yeah. Can be brutal people. Especially when they don't got no knowledge of themselves. Especially when they just out, when you done convince them that they only about money. Convince themselves, of course. But these people ain't no more like me. Like I'm associated with that. So what, I can't have nothing, right? So I got to give everything I got to Ramses and these niggas over across in the Nile, right? That's what I got to do. I gotta always look to Kenya or Djibouti or something else to get any real knowledge of myself. when I ain't had no direct connection to that other than what I've seen, which has totally disconnected me from that, which over here has put me in a servile situation. They function. I knew he was going to do that. They function in a position of self-institutionalization that we give life to. So like I said, these people that we see as Hollywood stars, these people are projected holograms that we all give a prism of light to. So for whatever this guy was, and them constantly referring to him as referring to him as being such a great light and being such a great shining light, like all of that, like I said, that's like when they was calling Malcolm their penis. You know what I'm saying? So like I said, the temple up until 1928 was one thing, and then after 1929, when the prophet was basically going out, by 1928 the prophet had elected Emily Ill, but he was being contested. And then all of these so-called rumors started with the prophet, and then, boom, he's gone. But the original tenets of what the prophet set up to do was already done. And they attacked the God. But if you look at the nation of gods on earth, you would see the prophet in that. The prophet was born on the 8th, the universal flag, 8 points. They had the 7 in the middle. The Moors used the circle 7. Father Allah gave them the headdress, right, which is the crown, with the tassel, free, right, and the pen, and the language, and the mathematics system, and the naming system, and the parliamentary government. You see what I'm saying? But they replaced the prophet with Fard, who at least one version of was a Jew. So there's a Jew version, a Spanish version, a Caucasian version, right? But if you look at David Ford Ill, he looked distinct past all of them. So as opposed to looking to the disconnect, we should look to the togetherness. But we can't look to the togetherness because people with misunderstandings about what they know was flipping stuff. And they trying to set themselves up to be the prophet. They're trying to be what they say he is. And that's cool. That's why I say it's not even about me. It's not for you or anymore. Really, at this point, the prophet has already defended himself in the oral statements. Look at what he said, or what was said that he said. It's a doorway. The same way you would have pictures of Osar and you would have pictures of Ogun or Batala and all that. All of that's the prophet. All of that is the avatar of what the prophet is. That's why the image is so powerful. So people want you to deject it. You just started hearing about Noble Jali. Now these niggas want to deject him and destroy whatever image you can have of it. Because the farther they get disconnected, like I said, from the perihelion, the more they become an alphilion, right, which is away from the sun. And now they are outside of the isonomy. Like I said, this thing is moving into the accuracy, the constellation of Hercules, which again is right. Hercules who slayed the Hydra, which is right next to Draco, which is right next to Ophiuchus. All serpentine energy, representing Kundalini on one thing, reptilian mind state on another. The two snakes coming together on the pin with the two wings that you see as the caduceus, or the symbol of the medical association, which is really the symbol of Yakub. Pin in the baby's heads and told them the lies, which were the snakes, as well as representative of the DNA that he was trying to manifest. And then gave them the wings, which is the story of the angel baby, to envision a white heaven, to produce a lighter strain mentally that could manifest a decrease of melanin in the dermis based upon psychoreactive biological reaction to internal synaptic stimulus. Meaning, if I'm a woman, I could like I have like my baby moms, man, like my son's baby moms, not Selena, my eldest son's baby mom. She one time talked to me about how her mom's marked her by having she wanted something or whatever, and the father didn't do it, and then she touched. So in it, she turned out to have one. So in that, with my son, was born with one. I'm like, yo, you know what I'm saying? What's going on? So that's what made me realize again the depth and the power of the woman's mind state when the child is coming up inside of that system, because she can manifest what she wants essentially that child to be or to look like. These are all Yakubian experiences. That's why a lot of our babies sometimes will come out mad light-skinned. You know what I'm saying? Now, it could sound stupid and basic. That's, again, I'm just talking. You know what I'm saying? But when you are into the occult and you into understanding how alchemical processes are used via physical statumancy, you know what I mean? The idea of being able to imbue something with a spirit or energy. That's real. People have been doing that. Our ancestors have been doing that for thousands of years. That's where canopic jars came from. Being able to reconstitute yourself. Walt Disney is cryogenically preserved right now. Right now. Walt Disney ran the 30-30, the 33rd Club, the 33rd Degree Club, I should say, out of the Disney studios, where only the 33rd degree Masons in the so-called cabal that they was running back then could go to. But they was doing all the rituals on these kids and bringing up these stars to it in what would be the satanic system to be able to ensnare the souls of the youngsters. But again, they did this after they moved Hollywood from out here in Andalus, in Florida. They moved it out west because it got too hot. The Italians was working with the CIA to move into Cuba, to back Baptista. See what I'm saying? As well as to find the original charter that the agency could then use to do whatever they needed to do with it, or destroy it, or preserve it, or whatever, you know what I'm saying, they was going to do. Because all this time that this is going on, the more it's been distant. Like I said, we've been here for 100 years already. Conscious Moors, in that sense, of what happened to us for 100 years. And all the other movements that came after us was conscious in that. So even when we say the Ahmadiyya movement, we talking about the Moor Science Temple, being that the Prophet was one of the mullays in it, the mullavis in it, under the name Mubarak Ali, who set up the first Islamic monarch, the Islamic mosque here in America. Born on a reservation in North Carolina. Like, exactly. That's what I'm saying. We have a real history. We are a real people. We have a true destiny that outlives and outdates us. All we have to do is do us. There's a saying that said, the greatest thing an individual can do, defend itself from an alien culture, is to live its own. We don't want to be at the Thanksgiving dinner and they fixing the pork head and all of that and be the ones eating salad and shit because they made sure there wasn't nothing else we could eat so they can make fun of us. We don't want to be that person. But that's what they do. The white man ain't doing that to you. You go to the white restaurant, they actually surprised. They actually like, wow, these niggas is actually really trying to keep it up. Let's see if they eat the soy, though. That's how the white people do. They just put the carrot in front of the horse, put the carrot in front of the horse. That's what they do. Whereas the black people, they just don't want you to have shit. If you black. If you not, they feel they can get money off you. Unless you black and you got money already. There's an ebb and flow I'm seeing with this thing. And once we agree to understand that, regardless to what we, like, I don't want to have to use FBI records to show and prove certain things that I've already seen inside and outside the temple. I just want to do things to show and prove that the temple is real. So my agenda is not to hurt or defame. My agenda is just to let you know that there was something else going on. My emphasis really is to have no agenda other than the isonomy, which is love, truth, peace, freedom, justice, and equality. See what I'm saying? That's the root. Because I believe in I self-law and master as a principle, which some people will call ma'at, or some people will call this or whatever. So I can see Islam in all of that and call that stuff Islam and know that I'm not trying to make them Muslims by doing that. But they can't do that for us. See what I'm saying? You can't call me an Ethiopian. You can't call me, you know what I'm saying? You can't call me certain shit. Because those things don't apply to me. They may apply to other people that may look like me in terms of the melanin and the dermis, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it applies to me. And you could tell that just based on the headdress. Only people who are this would want to look like this. So if you're not this, if somebody was to whatever, then they could challenge and you could feel stupid. So who want to put themselves out there like that if this wasn't who you are? Who would wear a yarmulke if they wasn't really Jewish, unless they was trying to do something to make people think that? But if you really are that, then you can wear a fez every day, because you don't have to have people walking around trying to read what's on the front of it. You see what I'm saying? You are the writing. Because the name at the top of the shrine of fez represents the Moor that owns the person that's wearing it, or the line that empowered the person as an ambassador or a sovereign commander or whatever. It represents a day, somebody that was put on, not somebody who was doing the putting on. You was either walking or you was riding. So based on this, the Moors, the 32,000 Moors that just bounced, that's the consciousness that spread out and eventually had to mask itself as other things and grew up generation to generation that eventually became the listeners of Super Heru Radio. That's how I have internalized it, or any type of Moorish consciousness. Now, whether they get to the root of it or not is based upon their faithfulness as noble Moors to drive to get it. Because the Boule and these other niggas don't put so much of a trench in the forefront that they have discouraged anybody from really seeking the truth. And then because a lot of the temples are still stuck in the time warp of 1929, they don't want to elevate past, because that look at that as disrespect to the prophet. But if everything that the prophet said then as the prophet, we can then take his word as a holy mandate, the same way that Catholics would take the speeches of the Pope as a papal bull. That's what they did in 1493. And look where that got them. look what they did with all of that. Look what we happened after that. So the same way he said that in the future there would be the new Moors to come, and they would come with their hearts and their minds and their eyes wide open, and they would tell the old Moors to sit back, and they would come and fulfill my law. Law is the third principle in Islam. So for us not to understand or practice law or understand true law, which is jurisprudence or positive law, then deny ourselves the ability to be in communion with equality.
But rather than put them in the back of the room, create a circle,
right,
in which everyone, and we'll speak to each one, and each
right.
one will be able to commune, so we can all vibrationally try to heal and bring each other up at the same time.
Indeed, and use the Constitution that was given to us to do so.
But if they don't want to do that, if we have overlords or people that have to dictate, then it's not even a space where that can exist.
It's not going to happen. People are going to think that people are trying to, and that's what it is. When you put out absolute statements to people who are striving to get knowledge, you come off like a gang. And the Moorish Science Temple of America is not a gang. The Moorish Science Temple of America has never been implicated in anything illegal. Matter of fact, under the current statute, all actions of the Moorish Science Temple are valid and legal under the Validation Act. But again, Moors don't read. And Moors don't understand what the term ecclesiastical government really means. They're not really going to do the nonsense to that because a lot of Moors don't want to deal with the responsibility of what it means to deal with people with exorbitant amount of money and not take advantage of them. These niggas don't trust themselves with $1. How they gonna feel comfortable when they got to be responsible for over 80,000 of you? You can't trust these niggas with $8. I know sheiks right now, niggas that's allegedly the holders of the great this and that. These niggas right now owe me $300 from like 2002. But back then, I'm asking this nigga questions like, well, if we Moors, why are we having a meeting inside the Trowler Square Lodge? You know what I'm saying? On a Wednesday. Like, what's up with that? Oh, well, the temple, blah, blah, blah. And then when I look at the temple card, I'm seeing that it's a section of the temple, but it's not the temple. Back then, I'm peeping that. But then when I'm actually doing the knowledge and going there, I'm seeing, again, a lot of them are trapped in the time warp. And it's not just them. It's all of these so-called doctrines that we still dealing with that have nothing to do with uplifting you and putting you back in your aristocratic state, your ecclesiastical aristocratic state, which exists. It exists. And it's our generation to see it, to do it, to be it. But it's not for everybody. Not everybody is really trying to really even be on it like that, man. Like right now, the Prophet's Chair is in the George Washington Museum. You know what I'm saying? In Virginia, I think. Just like the Bembe's Fez is in the Scottish Rite Museum in Washington. And was the other one. Then the flag allegedly was put back in the crypt in Philadelphia. And then what else? It was the chair, the flag, Bembe Fez. Yeah, man. There's all types of Moorish joints that we got to reclaim and do that. But who's going to do it? These Moors don't even believe that you should read anything other than that. Prophet never said. There's not one statement that I've ever read in the Circle 7 Quran or any other oral statement where he say, yo, don't read no other books. Like, I never heard that. I never heard him say, I never read nowhere where he said, yo, just don't practice law. Meaning not practice law, but don't study jurisprudence or natural law or positive law. Like, I never read that. I've never heard that until a couple of years ago. Around the same time, like I said, when I started reading all of these FBI redacted stuff, it's like, yo, man, it's already right. It's all right here. All you got to do is see who was the person in charge at that time, or who was vying for control at that time, and you'll see. So again, this don't impugn nobody that's dealing with what this person may have helped bring about to this day, because there was a lot of good and a lot of good Moors and faithful Moors in that. But in the end, that still got to get corrected. But again, people want to fight over the forest and not the trees and not the forest. You know what I'm saying? So what we have to do as faithful Moors is do the Prophet's work, because he said he only looks out for his Moors. This is one of the warning letters that we read at the end of the temple meeting. The same one that you're supposed to read after every temple meeting since 1928. And that's what black people don't like. They don't like when you could be consistent, man. They don't like that his doctrine really never changed. It really has never changed. And if it do, the core foundation of it, the Moors is definitely not going to have that. So they can't. You know what I'm saying? You can't really do without. So in that, the temple is the universal protection for all of us. Yet we don't want to accept the fact that it is based on us as individuals, which give life to the general body politic or the religious body politic and corporate. But Moors, again, there are those of us who they say are cultured and those of us who are strictly religious. And that's all good, because both are both. I wouldn't say I'm religious, but if you say I'm theocratic or ecclesiastical, I could say, yeah, that's true. But religion is the word that people understand it to be today. You see, the layman. And unfortunately, we haven't presided our own community to be able to have these discussions on how to be able to speak so-called their language in ours. Because as American missionaries of the Moorish Temple of America, we haven't formally consecrated ourselves as that. To do so, we have to formally come out and let them know that we are not part and parcel of this, but part and parcel of this said government. And it's very simple to do. Because like I said, America is what it is. You can hate it, call it a horde, what it is or whatever, but again, the niggas who talk all that shit, they ain't going nowhere else. They ain't going nowhere else. You get what I'm saying? It's a real thing, man. The fact that this thing happened as a slingshot, and the slingshot was used by David and Goliath, Ison, as it went around the sun, the same way the Star Trek Enterprise did in, I think, the Star Trek one where they had to go get the whales to go back in time. So, again, they sent this dude to Hercules, and one of the first people I heard on the thing was The Rock, and The Rock is playing Hercules in the new movie, which was interesting because Son's former karate teacher supposedly in the movie, too. That nigga was dirty, so we had to take him out of that environment. But our people won't do that. Sometimes our people will leave our children in places that's unsafe for lack of trust in the people that they know to do it. All true land is vested in the Taurus title, and unfortunately, there's no other black organization that's referenced or put in that. A good book to get is a book called The Government's Target or Gangster. It's called The Jerry Lewis Bay Story by Sheikh Jerry Lewis Bay, the Moor. It's on Amazon right now. Should really do the knowledge to that because there's a lot of interesting things about Moors that were mentioned being informants and stuff like that in the book, and a lot of Moors don't even know this book even exists. That's how I know something up with that too, you know what I mean? But when I say Moors, I'm talking about people who are not just fez wearers, but or towel heads. I'm talking about anybody that's on some so-called black awareness fees, because all of those are Moors to me, whether they call themselves that or not. You know what I mean? I'm dealing with the ancestor, not the transgressor, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, with that, we want everybody to be safe out there. And we're going to take some calls, but got to shut it down a little early tonight. I have to do some more research on certain things based upon some of the things that we're doing. If anybody wants to holler at us for lectures or bookings or private tutorials or tarot readings, you know, musical performances, whatever, hit me up through houseofl@hotmail.com. Anybody wants to hit me up as in my chairman capacity as chairman of Moorish Temple of America 2A, you can hit me up out here in the Al-Andalus territory. You can hit me up at houseofl@hotmail.com. Also check out www.cookingmorewithless.com as well as www.blackmambaworkouts.com. You can check me out at Duke of Tears on Twitter, as well as if you want to see some of our earlier works, you can check me out at www.aseerthedukeoftears.com. Also, if you want to read the world's most dangerous comic book novel, soon to be in color, and among other things, please check out www.darkskull418.com. It's a great book about a lot of the stuff that's going on. And like I said, you want to holler at me about any of those things or anything else, hit me up at houseofl@hotmail.com. If you wish to make a donation, you could do so at dukeoftears@gmail.com. We thank you guys for your patience in dealing with Smog Talk and how they be doing us sometime. But we definitely want to let you know that we're striving to keep things as right, correct, and exact as possible. And again, we're not perfect, yet still we striving to build to be born. You know what I'm saying? So respect out goes to that hero who was fallen, Paul Walker. Any human being sacrificed, or any human being dying in a senseless, somewhat or seemingly senseless act is horrible, regards to what. And also we want to say thanks and praise to the Creator for all of us who are waking up daily, and all the babies that we've been able to urge their parents to add ill and bay to the end of their name at birth, so that way they ain't got to go back and change nothing for the baby. So that way, in the first 7 years that the baby needs to be declared, you automatically are declared by the fact that the baby has to bay or ill at the end. So blessings to y'all. Blessings to all the fighters and all the people that's out there holding it down and trying to not hurt people and strangle people and kill people based upon how ignorant they be sometimes. And again, you know, let's pray for those of us who can live a life that's not based on all of the hardships that they try to make our lives be about, but look to something else, namely the Most High, which exists in the soul of man, which manifests in the spirit of man and mankind. So therefore, we have to flourish and not get caught up with the devil, and not be too overly compassionate either, but to deal with things in equality as they manifest themselves, because that's the only real thing. So like I said, the word Drew is a Welsh origin. It means wise. It also means boy and girl. It's a boy's or girl's name. It's unisex, therefore it deals in equality. Ali, which means heir or honoring God, manifested through Timotheos, meaning the God or the time of God. So, Allah, Father, universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, my salvation by night and day. Through his holy prophet, Noble Joe Ali. Amen. Love and light to everybody. Like I said, you want to holler, houseofl@hotmail.com. Also, about any nationality, birthright, inheritance, metaphysical, whatever, Oriental, Occidental, hit me up. We can build on that, set up private situations to help in whatever situation we need help in. So be safe, you know what I'm saying? Keep your wits about you and know that there's a deeper world than the one that's on TV. Peace.